Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. My name is Julde and I am an undergrad student at the City University of New York. My major is business administration with a concentration of marketing, and I'm having a minor in health service administration. So some of you may know I'm writing a memoir, so that's in the process right now. But I told some people that I'll explain my journey to hijab, because some people may wonder, how could a girl who was growing up on army bases around the world decide to wear the hijab? What led to that? But before I begin my video, I want to give a big shout out to my cousin Melissa, who made me this sweatshirt. And the sweatshirt says, "Don't worry about my hijab, worry about your edges." And the thing that's very significant about my cousin making this sweatshirt is she's actually from my dad's side of the family. So she's also of Christian faith, but she's very accepting of my Islamic belief system and stuff like that. So thank you very much for making me this sweatshirt, and she actually made it for me free of charge. It was just a gift that she gave to me when she came to visit. So now, what led to my hijab journey? So actually, I kind of began researching Islam in my 11th grade school year. So that was like around 2012. I was already like researching Islam, because I had a social studies teacher in my 11th grade who used to constantly talk about Israel and Palestine and the conflict that's been going on there. And surprisingly enough, I didn't even know nothing about the Israel and Palestine conflicts, because as a teenager, like that time I was like around 16 or 17, I was so caught up with just being a young teenage girl who wants to hang out and stuff like that. And even though that there may be wars and conflicts around the world, that wasn't really something that I was focused on. I was more focused on my teenage stuff and stuff like that. So while I was sitting in that class, there was a lot of eye-opening things that I've learned from that teacher, and she's actually of Jewish faith. And during the class, she will say certain stuff about Islam, and I'll argue her back or counter-argue it. But then I didn't have any like type of, you know, evidence to go from, because I didn't really know the Quran. But towards the ending of the school year, after a series of like debating and stuff like that and researching the Quran, what I realized is the teacher, she was actually happy that I was into my research to defend Islam. So the thing that I didn't know about this teacher the whole entire time was that she was married to a Muslim man. So I went to the guidance counselor complaining about her, and I complained to some other teachers about how she's talking about Muslims and stuff like that. And the same thing that everybody said was that this teacher who's teaching me social studies about Israel and Palestine was married to a Muslim. So now, while I'm reading the Quran from cover to cover, and I have different Qurans. They're all the same version. It's just that some of the... Oh, I had it upside down. Some of the Qurans have smaller text. Like this one has like a smaller text. And then this one has more like bigger text. Hold on. It has more bigger text. So, but then I try to get the ones that have the English translation. So in Surah An-Nur, which is chapter 24 of the Quran, it says, it starts off with the men when it comes to the hijab. It says on verse 30, tell the believing men to lower their gaze from looking at forbidden things and protect their private parts from illegal sexual acts. That is purer for them. Verily, Allah is all aware of what they do. And then verse 31 comes to the women. So basically for verse 30, it is telling men that they should lower their gaze. So if they see an attractive woman who may be wearing tight clothing and maybe her bosoms are all out and stuff like that, that a Muslim man must lower his gaze and not try to be inclined to talk to that female. But then following the men's verse, on verse 31 of chapter 24, it says, and tell the believing woman to lower their gaze from looking at forbidden things and protect their private parts from illegal sexual acts, and not to show off their adornment except only that which is apparent, like both eyes for necessity to see, or outer palms of hands, or one eye, or dress like veil, gloves, head cover, apron, and to draw their veils all over their bodies. So the veil is what I'm wearing right now, which is also called a kamar. So there's a lot of controversy, I guess, about what this is called, because people call this hijab, but men also have hijab in Islam. But then people say this is specifically called a kamar. So anyway, but most people know it as hijab. So to draw this veil over their necks and bosoms, which is like the breast area, and not to reveal their adornment except to their husbands, their fathers, their husbands' fathers, their sons, their husbands' sons, their brothers, or their brothers' sons, or their sisters' sons, or their Muslim women, which is like sisters in Islam, or the female slaves from whom their right hands possess, or old male servants who lack vigor, or small children who have no sense of the shame of sex, and let them not stamp their feet so as to reveal what they hide of their adornment. So like what they mean by don't stamp your feet is some women like to twitch their hips and walk with force. So basically, you're not allowed to do that as a Muslim woman, because if that type of walking reveals any type of like of any shape of your form, then that is like forbidden. And all of you beg Allah to forgive you all believers, that you may be successful. But in the same time that I was like researching this, like I was getting to know Islam more and more. Okay, so I was doing my research, but I didn't get that far yet. But then in 2014, when I did decide to wear the hijab, I decided, let me take a step back and learn something of the Abrahamic, something of the other Abrahamic faiths, which is Judaism and Christianity. Okay, so now I was reading stuff like the Bible. Now some people may not even want to hear that from me, but sometimes it's good to be open-minded, because sometimes when you open your mind to other stuff outside of your like little box, you get to learn a lot. So my dad converted to Islam, and when he converted, he still held on to his Bibles. So this is a Bible that my dad got when he first joined the military in 1992. So this is like, yeah, he got this. In fact, even has the date. Even has a date that he got it. He got this November 1992. This is a year before he converted to Islam, and it has text here that which it even it has like a little message for those who join the military, kind of, and want to hold on to this. Okay, so we have that, and then we have this Bible, and I even marked the part that I'm about to, yeah. And we have other ones. We have like Jehovah's Witness ones, and my dad said that he left it behind on purpose in our house so that maybe one day we'll pick it up and read it. And I was actually surprised that he did that. But he's smart, because guess what? I ended up picking it up and I learned from it. And I learned that actually hijab is in the Bible too. It's just that they state it in a different way. For us, we have to wear this while we lower our gaze and protect ourselves from any other man outside of our direct family. You understand? Any man that we can marry, we can't show ourselves to. So, let me see. Okay, so in the 1 Corinthians, there's a verse from 11:4 to 11:15. That's what I'm going to read, okay? It says, every man praying or prophesying with his head covered disgraces his head. But every woman praying or prophesying with her head uncovered disgraces her head. For it is one and the same as she who is shaved. For if a woman is not covered, let her hair also be cut off. But it is shameful for a woman to have her hair cut off or to be shaved. Let her be covered. For a man ought to not have his head covered, since he is God's image and glory. But the woman is the glory of the man. For man is not out of woman, but woman out of man. For also man was not created for the sake of the woman, but woman for the sake of the man. Therefore, the woman ought to have a sign of submission to authority of her head for the sake of the angels. However, neither is woman without man, nor man without woman in the Lord. For just as the woman is out from the man, so also is the man from the woman. But all things are out from God. Judge this in your own selves. Is it fitting for a woman to pray uncovered to God? Judge this in your own selves. Is it fitting for woman to pray uncovered to God? Does not even nature itself teach you that if a man has long hair, it is a dishonor to him? But if a woman has long hair, it is a glory to her, because her long hair has been given to her for a covering. So then after I read that, and I saw that in the book, in the Bible, then I decided that it was time for me to wear the hijab. And wearing the hijab has been hard for me because there is active discrimination and stuff like that. But I'm wearing it because I feel like it is an order from God. And I'm just trying to fulfill what I believe is a commandment through the Abrahamic prophecy, which time and time again, each messenger that came tried to tell different tribes, different nations, which is there's one God, and this is all the stuff that he wants you to do. And even though that this is not entirely gonna make me go to heaven, but it's one of the things that is an obligation for Muslim women.